Olaine and Sally regards to visitors at Nemeta. I'm using my standard greeting. The word Olaine is Nahuatl, and it means the moment for a change of heart. And the word Sally actually means vibrant or undulant. So, for instance, the Northern Lights are Sally. In reference to the ancient mysteries, it was said that those who were initiated were transported to the vision of the Elysian fields. And the Elysian fields are Sally because they are a zone or a dimension of radiant, vibrant, undulating light. That's the standard greeting I use. And I'm going to open this new set of talks on my channel with that greeting, in case you didn't know already what it means. So this is the first in a series of short previews of a talk in a unit, sometimes with text, that can be found on the visitors page of Nemeta. And in every case, if you log in with an email and a username, you can access the units on the visitors page completely free. The purpose of this talk is to explain why the message of Gnosis is transgressive and why you are, in fact, forbidden to know it. So, I'll begin with some simple points of language and grammar. Speech, both written and spoken, consists of two components: the words, the units of speech, and then the grammar, which is the system of constructing the words. Quite simply that. Now, it is a very great fact that I deliver the living Gnosis today in the English language, and that is, as far as I can see, the best, the optimal language for introducing Gnosis in its present iteration, which is an upscaling and elaboration of the ancient Gnosis. And so, just like in any other field, you learn the terminology and you learn how to use the words appropriately. I define Gnosis in one way as applied noetics. So what I'm teaching is the terms and the organization of the terms or syntax of applied noetics. Now, of course, what I teach comes across primarily in language, both spoken and written, not to say that that is the only way I can teach, or not to say that that is the ultimate or best way to communicate. There are ways to communicate which are non-verbal and non-written, and they are tremendously important as well in the practice of applied noetics. But the fact is that we are living at the end of Kali Yuga, and one of the characteristics of the degeneration of this period is the corruption of language and terminology and misattribution, naming things wrongly. And because we are social animals who construct society and transact our social relations, for the most part, with language, also with body language, due to that fact, which is unavoidable, it's obvious that if language is corrupted, then all of our relationships will suffer, and they will likewise become unsustainable and, in certain respects, insane. And I don't think you have to be a genius to observe that the condition of the world order today, the social order, is far advanced into this terrible catastrophe of confusion. So in order to truly know something, You need to use language correctly. And what I teach always relies on that basic assumption, as well as on my primary purpose, which is to teach you to use your mind in the way it is designed to work, and not against the way or contradictory to how it is designed to work. And you can compare that goal, that aim, to what we all learned in school when we learned grammar. Now, I don't know if this is done anymore, but when I was in high school, we learned to diagram sentences. Now, in the unit for this talk, in the visitor section of Nemeta, I provide an example of diagramming a sentence, and it may be new to you, and you might find it quite entertaining to see what that actually is. And very little is known of that today. For instance, you use the English language or any other language commonly without thinking about how the sentences you speak are constructed. Everyone does that. So if I were to ask you, what is a noun? You could say, you know. What is a pronoun? What is an adjective? You know. What is an adverb? You'd probably know those things, maybe not. But what if I ask you, what is a gerund? Or what is a copula? Or what is an infinitive? You see, you use those structures of grammar all the time when you write, read, and speak without having to go back and refer to what they are because they're installed in your NLP. But in my approach to teaching applied noetics, I take you back to a state where you are actually reconstructing your NLP at an elementary level. And I do this through the precise definition of words and through exact syntax, phrasing, exact phrasing, which can be repeated. And when it is repeated and remembered, you are directing your NLP in an intentional way. You're not just parroting or repeating what I say, you're actually reprogramming your own NLP so that your mind works as it is designed to work. It's as simple as that. Now in this talk, I'm going to concentrate on one word, one term, sacrilege. Don't hear it used very often. It was often used in the past in the reference of religious arguments and theological debates, some of which became bloody and murderous. And it is still the case today, vastly the case, that if you commit sacrilege, you can face very serious consequences, including death. So to get into it, let me tell you about the root of the word sacrilege. I often do this. I talk a lot about roots, and primarily I talk about Sanskrit and Greek roots that belong to the Indo-European language, and that is abbreviated PIE, Proto-Indo-European. So the PIE root of sacrilege is the word shak, which is generally spelled S-A-K, but the S is pronounced with an H. And shak is a phoneme close to shock, right? And shock, shock, right? It's a phoneme. And phonemes, by the way, are the sound units, the acoustical units that program your NLP. So shock means to have power or to exert power. And it is the basis of the word Shakti, which is the name from Hindu mysticism of the female or feminine divine power of the entire universe. So if you consider, and I invite you to consider, that reality as you know it is a materially real, three-dimensional film in which you are an actor and participant, not just a spectator. And this world display, which is called in Sanskrit Vishvarupa, this display of the world is driven by Shakti and supported by Shakti at every moment. So, for instance, suppose you're sitting at a table looking at a vase of flowers. Shakti is the operative materializing power that produces that vase of flowers, produces those flowers out of the body of nature, and at the same time, Shakti is what gives you the power to perceive those flowers, as well as the power to create the vase in which they are placed. So for the remainder of this talk, proceed to the visitors page, scroll down to the panel that shows the units, and click on the title Sacrilege, and that brings you to a page with the remainder of this talk, as well as some written text and illustrations.